Hey everybody, welcome back to Nihilisms. I'm Ryan.
Drew.
Oh wait, let's try that again. You're Drew.
Let's try that again. Something that maybe should be done.
Oh, that is foreshadowing for what we're about to talk about. I'm Ryan.
I'm Drew.
And Drew. In the summer of 2013, we got to see a couple things in the entertainment world. We got to see Thor: The Dark World. We got to see Iron Man 3.
Okay.
And
Better than the most recent Shane Black movie I've seen.
Predators?
Yeah. Oh.
Or no, Predators was great. The Predator.
Yeah. No.
No,
Yeah. It's The Predator. Was it Predators?
Predators is the good one with Adrian Brody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But also that same summer, we saw the phrase, having been betrayed by Robb Stark, slaughter all the Starks at the Red Wedding.
And that wasn't the first of the classic, you're watching an HBO show, make sure you are watching the 9th episode. Because every HBO show kind of follows that formula where the penultimate episode is usually the episode for the season.
And I ask you, 6 years ago, if somebody would have told you that the MCU would be putting out a better quality of entertainment than Game of Thrones, what would you have told that person?
By the end? Because like, you knew there was going to be a finite end.
Yes.
With both, I guess. I don't know. Because like hindsight's 2020. Because they were still building off of Thor towards Infinity War. And you knew that was still coming. But watching Game of Thrones, you knew they were starting to get to the point where they were going to have to start to diverge because they were catching up to the material that already was written. So you in the back of your head, you kind of had a feeling like, what are they going to do once they're caught up? Like, is George going to get more involved, or what are they going to do? So,
or as it turns out, that was one of the last times he was involved. After season 3, he ended up leaving. So if you haven't figured it out yet, we are here to discuss the finale and just a general recap of the HBO series Game of Thrones. And it pains me to do so, because right now there's a much better series on HBO, one of the best television series I've ever seen, and that is Chernobyl.
Yeah, and the fact that it's, like we've been talking about it at work, it's extremely accessible. It's only going to be a 5-episode thing. They're already 3
episodes in, so...
And every episode is as engaging and entertaining and, I guess, informative.
And horrifying.
Yes, as you would expect it to be.
We will get back to that. We're just going to get this out of the way now. If you're not watching it, stop what you're doing. Don't listen to the shitty podcast. You have finite time in a day. Go get caught up on Chernobyl and then put this somewhere else on your list.
Yeah, and I would strongly recommend that, like I said, since it's a short series, like I said, we're 3/5 of the way through. Listen to the companion podcast for the show. It's HBO puts it on their own YouTube page, kind of like this, and they're an extra 45 minutes that's topical to the episode that aired, but meanders more into
background,
more interesting background stuff.
All right, now that that's out of the way, Game of Thrones, the finale. We did a podcast right after the Battle of Winterfell.
Yes.
Since then, we saw, let's see here, an episode of episode
was
4
3
was...
of 6?
That was 3.
3 of 6 this
so,
season.
Let's see here. Episode 4 was mostly what's everyone doing now.
Episode 4 was mostly my favorite aspect of the show, fast travel.
Fast travel, but some decent character moments.
And then they decided to just torpedo all of that.
Episode 5 was the burning... Spoilers. Yeah, spoilers.
Yeah. Ugh.
Episode 5 is the burning of King's Landing.
Episode 5 was beware of the secret Hitler that flies.
And episode 6, of course, is the finale. We could nitpick a lot of this all day, and I don't want it to come off that way. My issues with it are more thematic and just bad writing. And we're not the first people to say this.
We've already said a couple times, you're a book guy, I've just been show, and luckily I haven't been like one of those, book people are going to act like their stuff's all better. I've just been like, I'm not going to commit to the books until he commits to the books.
Right.
Which apparently he recently said if he doesn't have a draft by 2020, lock him in a room until he gets a draft. But I
That was hilarious. He's going to New Zealand for some sort of festival, and he said if he's not ready to, if he doesn't have a copy of the book in his hand, so that's next summer. Yeah.
Yeah. But
let's back up. What worked for you
out of this season?
Out of the latter half of the season, out of the finale, out of any of it?
I think when given terrible material, you could see he really acts. He's really capable of acting.
Okay, because they can sell it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Dinklage is amazing, even with bad material. His scenes remain some of the best scenes in the show.
Gwendolyn Christie as Brienne of Tarth. In the finale, one of the only scenes that I took any pleasure from was her completing Jaime's chapter in the White Book.
Yeah.
You could say what you want about their relationship, but at the end of the day, that arc with the White Book, they go into it more in the books, but with him having the ability to write his own final chapter and never physically being able to do that in the book, I don't know, it was kind of neat to see them go back and actually tie up that old thread.
And regardless of what we think or you think, story was a big part of that finale.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense of like who's going to finish yours.
Yeah. So there's that on the meta level of the history.
Oh man.
There's a history book called A Song of Ice and Fire, written by Archmaester Generic and named by Samuel Tarly, who... Have you played Skyrim?
No.
Okay. Here's the thing about Skyrim. You can join the equivalent of the Wizards Guild, and basically in the course of the afternoon, in game time anyway, become the head of the Wizards Guild. Whereas in previous games, it took you a long time to work your way up through the ranks. Apparently, Samuel joined the
he joined the Westeros version of Phoenix Online.
Yeah. Because how is he the Grand Maester when he never even so much as
broke every rule when he was an initiate, basically.
Never so much as even got a
is married and father.
Like, you've seen the chains they all wear, right?
Yeah, and so his was not complete.
The symbolism behind that is
every
link
master
is a subject.
Gives you a different link of a different metal.
He didn't even have a single link when he left, so I'm guessing nepotism. But that's
a lot of the back half of this episode is shut up and don't try to pay too much close attention, because you will easily find everything wrong with it.
I was okay with John's ending.
John was the only character that I ended up liking out of anything this season, I think.
Which is a shame, because he's supposed to be the generic Luke Skywalker type character
which is easy to like.
But
so
that's
intentionally you want to dislike it, but I don't mind John as a character.
Because he's generic.
Yeah.
As people smarter than me have said, he's the male bathroom symbol. he's everybody. So there's nothing to not like. How can you actually like him? But you can more easily put yourself in his shoes.
Yeah. He's the insert.
So, but that being said, his ending was actually, we've got to send you to the Watch. And he even says, hey, is there even still a Watch? At which point, Bran, I'm guessing, with his mind, just nudged him in the ribs and said, shut up.
Yeah.
Because he gets up there's no Watch left. There's a hole in the wall.
No.
And he gets to go north with the wildlings, which gets really into a lot of his character that wasn't all that developed. I mean, he was the guy that went to bat and fought tooth and nail to save the wildlings' lives. When you get to about mid-series, he's the one that wanted to bring them all through. He went to save them at Hardhome. He's the guy that really started to see them as human beings and not these just savages.
Yeah.
So the idea of him getting to live among them is a good enough ending.
Yeah, a lot of people have complained that it's not a character arc if he ends up where he started, but I don't agree.
That's not where he started, and you're right. It's not a character. It is definitely a character arc if you end up back where you started. There's a famous quote that I can't remember for the life of me who said, but it has to do with changing is going back to where you started, but being able to see where you started in a new way. I mean, that's the whole point of the hero's journey.
Perspective being different.
Yeah, the whole point of the hero's journey, like Gordon Campbell, which, granted, Martin is not a Campbell guy, but that character returns but changed. Mm-hmm. And did John change? I don't know.
I would say so. I would say perspective definitely, like that his character's perspective has definitely changed. But you want to talk a regressive character arc? What the hell happened to Jamie?
I don't know.
I think that's a well, we need him to be here. How do we get him there? Well, how about let's just have him convince himself that he didn't change at all, and that's good enough for them.
That's possible. On the other hand, there's a reason that Tyrion sent him behind, into King's Landing, because he thought that he could possibly avert this whole thing. So it served a narrative function, to a degree, and I think that also at the end of the day, love or not, he I don't think he could have lived with himself if he just let Cersei die.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not gonna really harp too much on that character arc, but let's get into the meat of it. Let's get into Daenerys.
Oh my god, this is the worst written character in anything I've watched in a while.
And that's just it. It comes down to writing.
And they tried, and again with the Tyrion scene, they tried to cover up their mistakes, and it was a good scene, but it was too little, too late. And I'm talking about the scene where he's what looks like he's arrested in the pantry. He talks to Jon, and he's like, everywhere she goes, she kills evil people, and we cheer her for it. What happens when the evil people run out? And it's like, that's bad backtracking, but like that's trying to at least cover your bases for having the most abrupt 2-episode about face ever. And it would have been much better if it felt earned, and it never did.
They laid the groundwork for it in season 7 when Cersei gets Randall Tarly and all the other lords to come to her side.
Even earlier than that, when she took Astapor?
Astapor Marine. Which one are you thinking about?
Whichever. And crucified
the 147 or however many.
But then even after that, they convinced her to these are the people who actually own everything here, so pretend to make nice with everybody else, and she did that for a while until they tried to kill her again.
I don't know.
But at least Daario has an entire city that he runs still.
Presumably. We don't know what happened anywhere. I mean, for all we know, Quaithe... I don't remember Quaithe?
Oh, man.
The girl in the woman in the red mask?
Yeah, she showed up once, and she's probably far bigger and more important in the book.
Huge character who has been there in the shadows since book 1, and you don't realize that until book 5. When he finally ties it back in. So yeah, he's been invading, or she's been invading Daenerys' dreams. Which how is she doing that?
Yeah.
And you don't realize it until a dream she has in book 5 mirrors a book she has in book 1. So, but no, we could talk drop plots, we could talk everything, but Daenerys. Who was Daenerys supposed to be? Was she supposed to be power hungry? Was she supposed
I don't think they even knew what they wanted to do with the character. Because, only once she's gone nuts did they try to bring up the whole, she's gonna, burn everything to rebuild because that's how she's breaking the wheel. And I'm like, no, I think you kind of already established that this is not how she would have done it.
No. And breaking the wheel, that was supposed to be the theme of this whole thing. And you can't still have a queen, a monarch, because the wheel is predicated.
It's the axle that the wheel spins on is the monarch.
Yes, and she would leave somebody else in charge. Tyrion brings that up last season. Hey, what happens when you die? Oh, you've been thinking a lot about my death. No, you're a monarch. People hate you. Someone may try to kill you.
And
eventually
and
you're going to die.
She claims to know she's barren. So
right.
This is an issue that in the finale they just don't care about.
So, what exactly was her plan to break the wheel? Take over, have a few ostensibly good years once she has world domination, and that's scary in and of itself. Every ism in the history of the world, fascism, Catholicism, any ism, operates on the idea that if everybody was like us, then the world would be better because we're all under the same set of rules, but that'll never work. Therefore, what exactly was her plan to break the wheel? To break it temporarily, to have somebody else fix it?
I think it's a buzzword. I think it was a way to get people who.
It sounded so good.
Yeah.
It sounded great.
Got a lot of people to name their kids after her.
Which is irritating. I'm gonna name my daughter Khaleesi. Khaleesi means
It's a
queen.
title. It's a title.
It means queen. You named your daughter queen. Who is also, by the way, subservient to the call every time, because when the call dies, the Khaleesi has to go back to Vastoth Rack and live out her life. Anyway, I don't know. We've kind of rambled here. How did we get here? I mean, yeah, I know how we got here. We got here because Dave and Dan got offered a lot of money to go over and do a Star Wars thing. They wanted to wrap this up. There are strong rumors that HBO offered them a truckload of money to drag this out a little longer to make the last season 2 seasons, just to give this time to get all the writing in that they needed to. But they decided they wanted to just put a bullet in it and be done with it. It's a perfect storm of... It makes me appreciate the Marvel Universe even more. And the fact that they were able to get these actors into long-term contracts and get these people to stick around for a whole decade.
Well, I think that's more interesting because you've got different people writing different aspects of the story, but the core narrative has enough of a rigid guide from above to like, okay, you can do your own thing, but no, we need you to get to this point by the end of your movie. And it did ruffle some feathers. That's why Edgar Wright left. I think that's why Favreau left initially.
Mm-hmm.
And it did lead to them having to rethink who they were going to have direct and everything like that. But I don't know if it was the money was good enough to do what the studio wanted them to do. But I don't know. This seems to me like it's a case of two guys who just probably got tired of writing it, and when they didn't have the input from the guy, and they started seeing that everybody was like, well, this isn't what George is doing. This isn't what George has written. And I bet that on top of just being like, we've been doing this for 8 years. Can we do something else? And then they get the golden parachute from Disney, and it's like, okay, we can put this to bed, and then go on and do something else. And I think they're going to ruin that. Although there's really nothing there to fix or to ruin because Star Wars is already garbage.
Dave and Dan, the saviors of Star Wars,
Oh my
God. From the guy who wrote X-Men Origins Wolverine. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of those ones you find and you're like, oh no.
Speaking of which, I started watching Brick last night. Rian Johnson, one of his first big movies. I didn't finish it. I got through about the first third before I fell asleep, and it reminded me of a not quite as good Twin Peaks.
Really?
Yeah. And then he did Looper, and then he ended up with Star Wars.
Yeah.
And now
you kind of get it that it's like, oh, so it's because it's different than what you see. It seems like there's talent there.
I don't know where I was going with that tangent, other than we were talking about Star Wars and writers and directors, and I started watching that last night. So the legacy of Game of Thrones, just one of declining writing and increasing quality in terms of
production value.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, actors who are playing characters that long get better. Like all the child actors, with the exception of Bran, but that's just because I don't think they knew how to write a character with that ability.
Oh, Dr. Branhattan?
Yeah.
The Branbot 9000,
Yeah.
as Preston Jacobs likes to call him.
But I'll say this. I watched and was really into Lost. I watched and was really into Battlestar Galactica. I don't think about those at all anymore. And I think this show, because of how it ended, is going to have the exact same legacy. The time you invest into something doesn't matter if culturally people move on. So I don't think this is going to have any real lasting value. I mean, you've already got Westworld that is like assume the role of, hey, this is the show HBO is going to put like feature film quality money into.
But it's not getting the return on investment that they wanted. Westworld.
I think part of that too is season 2 was sort of disappointing, and Nolan and his wife said, we're ending this after 5 years. Like, we have an end game in mind. So I think HBO probably was like, okay, well, at least we know our table. With Game of Thrones, with them not having a written finale, they could have gone perpetually if they really wanted to.
And they're going to, in a way, because they've got the prequel coming up, and the prequel bothers the hell out of me.
I see no point in prequel stories. That's why I don't really pay attention to them. I think after Star Wars, knowing where you're going, if you're going to use familiar characters, it doesn't matter.
There's only one way that this prequel story is going to impress me, and that's if they get back into what the Three-Eyed Raven actually is. Because if the Three-Eyed Raven ends up being something not good, then you go back and you rewatch the end of Game of Thrones, where they put the Three-Eyed Raven on the throne of Westeros, and all of a sudden it gives the thing a whole new light.
Yeah.
So that's possible. I think we discussed before, though, that I have no interest in essentially going back 8,000 years into what would be mythology for us.
Yeah.
There's no records. They even established, I think, in both the book and the show, that there's no records going back all the way to the time of the Long Night. So what's
Which is
the
why
point?
fun, like, speculative stuff about, like, who the hell built all the great houses?
Who built the wall?
Yeah.
Who built Storm's End? I mean, look at... I found when Daenerys retook Dragonstone, the architecture inside of there, it's got these weird jutting almost ribs.
It almost looks natural. Like, it almost looks like a natural...
It almost looks sci-fi.
Yeah.
It reminded me... Don't crucify me. But it reminded me of the architecture a little bit in Prometheus.
Yeah, where it's got that Giger look to where it's
It's
like uniform but organic shapes.
Yes.
And like that kind of throws your brain off because it's like it's uniform looking. It's like if you had like a row of fingers, but every finger was identical, but it still had like the look of a finger. That's offsetting.
Yes. So you gotta wonder what the hell happened with all of this, prehistory stuff and where these things came from, because clearly the people that are living in Westeros now, they can't build or repair the wall.
Yeah.
So they've had a technological regression in some way, but it's a question of how far they've regressed.
Which is kind of a cool answer to the lame Arya finish of she's just gonna go further west, and you're like, well,
at least that was set up though.
Yeah, but you're also just like, well, why doesn't anybody do that? And then you realize it's like, oh wait, they're literally a feudal society where they've got stuff that they don't know how to fix anymore. So why would you bother exploring?
Which people who have gone for the whole this is secret sci-fi angle get a lot of flack. I happen to believe it because when you talk about those sort of things, it reminds me more of, I don't know, playing Fallout, where the stuff that you're building is just combining the scraps of the old
it's
world.
whatever you have.
Nothing is progressing anymore. So that's what we have to look forward to. I think they've already started filming.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel bad for those showrunners because they're probably guys who probably were really into the show and the books and are like, cool, we get to craft our own thing on our own. enough divorced from this that we could be more creative, but it's probably gonna.
I think they'll be able to. You're gonna still have to have tie-ins. Like Better Call Saul is probably the best prequel I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it does its own thing, but it still understands it's in this connected universe.
Yeah.
Okay, I can live with that. If they can pull off something like that, and I'll be honest with you, I think Better Call Saul may be in some ways better than Breaking Bad. I have high hopes that this show, if it's been refreshed enough, may end up being better than Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
There's nothing in this. There's almost nothing on TV that compares to the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones. It is some of the best television ever made. Writing,
Yeah, because that was back. That was back when it was like political drama under the guise of a fantasy series before it literally flip flopped and just became a fantasy series.
but those elements were all there, and it blended them pretty well. It kept the ominous. You know what this was? Anytime that you actually see the monster in a horror movie, that monster becomes less interesting. I mean, Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Knowing who Jason or Michael Myers is, any of that stuff. Anytime the human brain does a lot more with not knowing, and the mystery of the White Walkers, the fact that they solved it, and I gotta say it's solved. It's exactly what they appeared to be.
Yeah.
They were a weapon run amok by the children of the forest, and they were killed by one assassin.
Yeah. Still doesn't mean that Hard Home's not a great episode though.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, you could hate where it ends, but not hate the journey, and I think that's where a lot of people who are really into the show are gonna end up. But like I said, I think just culturally it's gonna fade, just like every other big show, especially nowadays when every platform has its own stuff.
Yeah,
There's like a lot. Like I've recently given thought of maybe starting dabbling into The Expanse because a lot of people say The Expanse is phenomenal. And I did a little bit of the legwork on it, and I'm like, this is kind of interesting. It's a sci-fi show, and Galactica was the last sci-fi show I watched, and that didn't end too well. And I'm like, it's one of those weird things where there's 2 writers that are writing a book series concurrent and actually are finishing the book series.
I started The Expanse on Monday.
Yeah.
I watched
I'm
part of the first
thinking about
episode.
starting it. I've done a little bit of the legwork on it. It seems like it might be worth giving a try.
So we'll have to touch base on that because it's funny you should say that a couple days after I
everybody
started.
who has been done with this and was like, is there anything is there anything in those veins that's of the quality people are saying that The Expanse is good? So I might give it a try, see how where part goes.
Yeah, I started Boardwalk Empire, started The Expanse.
Boardwalk Empire I watched all the way through. Diminishing returns by the end, but it stays pretty consistently good throughout.
Okay.
Really good acting performances by a lot of people. That show is where the really short-lived Vinyl series came from, because Bobby Cannavale came in as like a bit player in one of the later seasons of that show, and they were like, "This guy's phenomenal." And that's, I think, right around the time the season where Bobby Cannavale was in. I think it was right after that is when Scorsese left his EP because he took Cannavale and started working on Vinyl.
Oh.
And the show, people thought it started declining. I thought it was okay throughout. I mean, you knew, with it being a period piece, you knew it was going to end with the end of Prohibition, basically. But it's a good show. If you like good character actors like Buscemi, it's worth the ride the whole way through.
I will have to get back on that horse. I don't want to talk about Game of Thrones anymore.
Until a book's out. You've actually got actual content to talk about.
We've been recording for about half an hour, and I've realized that I don't think there's anything left to be said. I mean, people smarter than me have probably touched on most of these topics already on platforms that are reaching more people than our minuscule podcast.
I don't know. Sometimes you just want to put your words.
Oh yeah, me too.
Your thought into words too,
and just add your voice to the cacophony of people who are disappointed. To the people who loved it, I wish I was one of you. I wish I could have just loved it but the writing was
at the end of the day, what it really comes down to in terms of my version of my disappointment with it was it just it's bad to see something in that setting that reached that many people have that bad of a response to its finale. Because who would have ever thought a like relatively unknown to other than people who are looking for it fantasy series would reach that many would keep that many people interested in.
Never in a million years. And the people I really feel bad for are the ones who thought that this was going to be their Black Panther moment. And when I say that, I mean a representation in popular media of like women and minorities and all this other stuff. That I see the look on your face.
People really thought a medieval setting?
Our listeners can't see the look on your face, but it's hilarious.
Wow.
And they have every reason to think it because George R.R. Martin is a huge feminist.
Yeah.
The characters that he writes, he has an Arya character or a Lyanna Stark character, this gender bending, like, I'm not going to listen to the patriarchy sort of character. In everything that he writes, the idea that somebody would come in and tear down the monarchy, which at the end of the day is a good stand-in for the patriarchy. All of this stuff, everyone thought that this was going to be some sort of
like a watershed.
Yeah, watershed masterpiece that was going to turn how things are portrayed on their heads. Now, I was talking with my girlfriend about this. And there were a lot of women on social media who were singing the praises of Arya Stark, and I never really understood that. I mean, yeah, I get it. She killed the Night King, whatever. But at the end of the day, it was she achieves her goals through violence, not through respect, just through sneaking and murdering.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to my girlfriend about it, we both came to the same conclusion that this show, despite being what was supposed to be at least have some feminist angles to it, didn't have a character anywhere close to Furiosa.
Yeah.
There's a right way and a wrong way to write those sort of characters, and George Miller got it, Dan and Dave didn't. And it could just be that Dan and Dave weren't equipped to do that, so thank God they are not doing Confederate. Were you familiar with this?
No.
You didn't hear about Confederate?
No.
Confederate was an alternate history.
Oh, they're going to do a CSA type thing?
Set in modern day where the Confederacy had won.
Yeah, there was a movie that did it maybe 15 years ago that did it as a documentary.
No. This was supposed to be a whole HBO series.
They're going to do a series probably, yeah, based on that concept.
After seeing their handling of Game of Thrones, I don't think they're capable of handling anything other than a teleporting, mouth sewn shut Deadpool. I know it was only one of them. I think it was David Benioff? Or was it Dan? Or was it Weiss? Shit. I knew this. I looked this up before we started recording. Oh well. Regardless.
David Benioff and D.B. Weiss is what it is.
One of them wrote that. But do you see where I'm coming from, though? Is that for a show that was supposed to be sort of groundbreaking in terms of subtlety of message.
Yeah.
And
well, I think a lot of that is
empowering
for anything to be as close to as close to a one-to-one adaptation as the creator may have, even to themselves, had a hidden intent. You'd probably have to have somebody who's selling the creator on that's the thing that they like out of the work, and then that might invest it. But,
I mean, you get a left winger who writes The Watchmen, and a right winger who adapts it.
Yeah.
Look at what you get. You get nothing.
And I don't know what the hell. I might do the premiere for this new series. I think it's going to be divorced from that, but
I hope
just
so.
using a setting similar to that and banking on the name, bringing people in. Because I don't know if it's going to be like some kind of sequel. Whoa,
I hope not.
whoa. Although I don't mind seeing more get angry because I think he's just one of those had one exceptionally good work. He gets really mad when people do anything with it.
Do you have any final thoughts on Game of Thrones?
Well, the only lesson I learned from this season is white women be crazy.
I wish I could laugh at that. I really
I was thinking
do.
about like how you could just distill like how you could TLDR most of the season, and it's basically don't trust rich white women, and that's about it.
which goes back to what we were talking about. How that is clearly not what George was trying to write
but
about.
like a lot of stuff that happens in this season is just it's silly, but a lot of it is just really we're gonna act like it's a coin flip.
That's well established for Targaryens. Like, Targaryens are just fucking nuts, and that's largely because of inbreeding.
Yeah.
It's amazing that they're so attractive.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be like really.
Apparently, insanity is the only
They look
thing
like they'd have like FAS faces and stuff.
the Habsburg.
Every single one of Cersei's kids should look like they have FAS because she just drinks more than anybody in the show.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
disappointing, but we've been on this road. You should not have been surprised. That's I guess what I would say.
I knew where this was going.
Who is surprised that this was this bad?
But much like Jaime's character, you have an interesting arc over the course of the whole thing, and at the end you get something fairly predictable, but it could have been better done.
Yeah.
So Jaime is a microcosm of this whole entire show. Because now you've got essentially the worst police state the world has ever seen, because your monarch can see everything.
Yes.
You've got Bronn is master of coin.
Literally the worst equipped person for that. He's a mercenary. What does he know about finance?
Maybe he has a degree in Keynesian economics from the Citadel. I don't know.
From the Old Town University of Raven correspondence.
He went to school with Sam.
Yeah.
Who else is on
There's
that
the
council?
Citadel, and then there's just like a house with a little lamp on top, and that's where you go to college to get the advanced course.
We need a master of whispers. Do we, Bran? Because you can see everything.
Yeah.
Why would you fill that position?
It's the worst decision ever. Can we just talk briefly?
Yeah, sure.
About the console of idiots.
Oh God.
About just everything about that. Now that the more I think about it, just makes me laugh. I'm like, so you have to imagine about a month's worth of time or something when if you believe that actual travel happens in this world for everybody to get there, about a month's worth of time.
At least, especially from the north.
The entirety of what's left of the houses in Westeros let a decimated army of savage horse riders and eunuchs, which are at half strength and probably a little bit lesser than that now.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they still helping each other?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure after everything went to shit and Daenerys got killed, whatever calls were left were just like, okay, cool, we're just going to start raiding everything now.
Yeah.
Fuck this continent. We hate it here.
There should be a new call.
Yeah. But no, apparently Grey Worm, who drank the fuckhead juice, and is just an asshole now, somehow maintained control for a month? I mean, granted, there's nobody left alive. But apparently they crown Bran and rebuild everything.
Oh, now you're going to make me go to another thing. Hey, we're cool with you being king, but the North is going to be free. And the two kingdoms who are super, we're always going to be free, Dorne and the Iron Islands. Dorne and the Iron Islands rebel three times a week.
The only thing I would think is that Yara figures, well, there's nobody on Bear Island, and nobody's going to help the North now, so that's ours.
I guess. But the Iron Islands are...
I can't stand the Ironborn. I don't understand why they're a kingdom when yeah they have a navy, but they literally refuse to like settle.
They never used to. Like Harrenhal, the biggest castle in all of Westeros, was built by Harren the Black, who was an Ironborn.
Oh, okay.
They used to invade all the time. In fact, it was Harren the Black was such a dick that when Aegon invaded, most people were rallying around Aegon probably not because they liked him, but because they hated Harren the Black so much that they wanted to get rid of him. So they sided with the invader.
That's funny.
That is likely the backstory.
But yeah, like you're saying, just the two most different culturally are just like no, they're fine with a northern weirdo being the king.
Yeah.
And his own sister's like, fuck that.
Right.
Like you think you would need to keep the north to like this is gonna be kind of hard to like elect a king and have everybody buy into it. Especially if, you know, your most closest kin decides to fuck off.
Let's break the wheel. Sam with his idea of democracy.
Holy shit. I thought
Getting laughed down.
I was like even the fact that they used it as a joke, I was just like, why did we even go here? That's the stupidest idea in this setting.
Well, it's not though. Because but hold on.
The thing is you've only ever really been presented with people who know how to read in this setting.
Okay, yes. But the idea of a little bit more control of, from the people, he was taking it from the idea of the Night's Watch, who choose their own Lord Commander. And there have been thousands, if not tens of thousands of the Night Watch, depending on how far back in history you go at any one time. And they were able to make it work. The Ironborn used to do King's Moots, and they brought one back when they elected Euron.
Yeah.
So the idea of some form of democracy, which I guess we're getting hold on. What if the show is brilliant? What if this show, in that last scene, is just taking a shot at what we consider representative democracy? Because now it's the lords choosing the ruler. Was this... am I giving them too much credit?
I think you're giving too much credit. I think it was just done as a joke to anybody who realizes the setting that we're actually in. That
it's not a political statement against the Electoral College?
Yeah.
No? No? Maybe?
Somebody's probably going to be able to write a paper on it and get an excuse to watch more Game of Thrones. And more power to that person, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, the North better have some food stores or have a lot of money because now they're paying tariffs on everything that's coming in.
They're already decimated. We already know that they ate all their food trying to keep the armies alive when they were fighting the Army of the Dead. I guess the last thing, because we're almost 45 minutes, what happened to Winter?
Oh my god. I thought, like, you knew it was the ash, but I was like, oh, maybe they actually remembered that it's supposed to be winter even down in King's Landing for the last, like, episode. But no, it's just still the ash raining. And I'm like, it should have been starting to snow for a very long time. Jaime left on a presumably month-long trip north, and it was already starting to snow. And apparently it's done.
Why did Stannis burn his daughter?
Because it was a blizzard.
Because winter was setting in, and he needed to get to Winterfell to fight.
See, the joke going around now is maybe they'll make a Game of Thrones Brotherhood. Because if you don't know, anime Full Metal Alchemist was created, finished before the author she'd finished the work. Once you finish the work, the studio just redid the show one for one, and it's like one of the better adaptations of anything ever.
Oh,
and people have made jokes that like, well, I'll just wait for GOT Brotherhood. I'll just wait for the finished version and the actual redo.
That would be, they're going to. There's enough in this age, in this glorious age of reboots and sarcasm, of course. But this is one that, give it a generation, I wouldn't mind seeing it redone.
Yeah, I don't know. It was good for a while, and it wasn't. It's pretty much like anything in life.
And I went into it with all these high expectations because of the source material.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it just wasn't there.
At least it shows that if you can start strong enough and care enough to bring in casuals, you could pretty much take anything that has a good enough that has a good enough meat to the story and adapt it at this point.
Yeah.
Which is cool because that means there's just tons of creative avenues that you can go with television.
But it's a gamble.
Yeah.
When you're talking $1 million an episode to get the quality of what you need.
Yeah.
If you look at early seasons, they skip battles.
Yeah.
That I'm sure they would have rather shown, but instead, we're going to hit Tyrion on the head and have him knocked unconscious for this battle and then wake him up and do this from his perspectives. Oh, what happened? Oh, there was a battle. Here's what happened that we saved $1 million on by not showing it. I guess that's it. We'll come back to Game of Thrones at some point. I mean, maybe one day you'll read the books. Maybe one day he'll finish the books.
That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for at least some finality to things.
I'm sure that we'll both end up watching the prequel. At least I will.
I probably won't.
No.
Yeah, I've got very little interest in anything prequel at this point.
Wow. So that's it then.
I watched a bit of Saul. I just never stuck with it. I didn't hate it, but it's just never stuck with it. Opens up Sundays now because Chernobyl is gonna be over in 2 weeks, and then I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do.
Well, it's Mondays, yeah.
Yeah.
Sundays are up. This Sunday, I'm going to see John Wick.
Still have to see that, and
then Godzilla.
Godzilla is gonna come out, and then Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then, and before that, I'll probably go see the final Fox Marvel movie, Phoenix.
Quick aside on that, I know this is running long, but I saw a beer with a direct label tie-in to that.
To Dark Phoenix?
Which is weird. You associate this with things like Doritos.
Yeah.
Like right now, Doritos have Spider-Man on the package.
That's weird.
To see a craft brewery getting in on that sort of...
Well, I know Rogue did a Mike Mignola Hellboy label that was really cool back in the day. Like, he literally drew the entire logo.
This is different. This is generic logo. Go see Dark Phoenix. Maybe like a coupon on the inside of the can or something. God.
That's funny. Weird.
I have never seen that marketing in that world before, but
that's weird.
It exists. Let's wrap it up. Everyone, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
No final thoughts?
No, there's just...
God damn it.
I've watched like 4 shows like this, and you feel bad at the end, and then you just forget about it. It's just, you keep moving.
Well, if any of you listening have any recommendations on things that should we get into the Expanse or whatever, leave it in the comments, because we're in a dead zone now. There's a couple movies coming out. Chernobyl's ending, and yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself.
I don't know. Maybe actually have to, be a person. No, I will never do that. Never.
Walk the dog.